Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have a naturopath, Jessica Donovan, with me today, and we are talking all about how we can support our kids to have better attention when they're struggling with issues like hyperactivity, how we can help them with this, and with issues of like behavioral issues, ADHD, all sorts of things that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm so thrilled to have Jessica here. Before we begin, though, Jessica, can you let us know one thing that you did today that was just for you, just to nourish you or take care of you?
Oh, yes, sure. So I'm so happy to be here. I've been getting into a bit more weight training. And so I did a 30-minute strength training workout this morning, which I'm really enjoying. I'm now in my mid-40s, so there's less jumping around in my workouts. And, strength becomes more important as we get older. So yeah, I really enjoy those workouts in the morning.
What a great way to start the day. You must just have so much more energy that way.
Definitely. It makes such a difference. Yeah.
So, before we get into this topic, can you tell us a little bit about you and what it is that you do?
Sure. So I am a naturopath and I'm also a mum of two. My kids are in the teen years now. So I have been through many of the stages of bringing up kids. And now, I feel totally out of my depth now. The teenagers, totally different stage. So I'm a naturopath and I specialize and focus on kids' health. So I have an online business, Natural Super Kids, and we're all about supporting parents, mainly mums, but dads are welcome too, to boost the health and nutrition of their kids and get to the root cause, the underlying cause of the common kids' health issues that we're seeing so much of these days, including what we're talking about today, the mood, the behavior, the sleep, the ADHD, but also things like, digestive issues, eczema, allergies, immunity, and those sorts of things.
Yeah, it's so needed these days. So, from research, from having kids myself and working with lots of kids and parents, I noticed that it seems to be that so many kids nowadays have issues with like ADHD or hyperactivity or behavioral issues, inattention. The list can go on. Why do you
Mm.
think this is? Why are we seeing so many more kids? It's almost like it's not normal, but it's common. It is so common. And
Mm.
yeah, ADHD, autism, sensory processing disorder. Why do you think this is becoming so common?
Yeah, and it is like that. But when you look at the stats, I mean, I don't have those handy, but there is definitely an increase, in the diagnosis of these neurological conditions in kids, ADHD, kids on the spectrum. And I think we're learning more and more, about these issues. And, there's the train of thought that ADHD is a brain type and that sort of thing. But I think, when we kind of look at the big picture, it really comes down to our modern diet and lifestyle, the foods that our kids are eating, the foods that they're lacking, the nutritious foods that they're lacking in their diet, the lifestyle that we're leading, the increase in toxins and chemicals within our environment that our kids are exposed to. And I know we're going to delve into these different areas, but yeah, I think to like look at it from that big picture, it's really the downsides of the modern diet and lifestyle that are contributing to the increase in all of these issues in kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that too, and there's so many things that are against our kids and ourselves with our health. It's quite a struggle, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. There's so many hurdles that make it harder for us to keep our kids healthy these days. And this is, what we talk about constantly at Natural Super Kids. So it is getting harder and harder, but I also am all about, those practical things that we have in our control as parents, that we can, make changes in, because there is a lot of stuff that's out of our control and we can get overwhelmed by it all and think, well, what's the point? You know, there's all these toxins in the environment that we can't make a difference to. There's all these foods available in the supermarket that our kids are being exposed to. But there are so many things and changes that we can make as parents. And yeah, that's what I'm really excited to share more about today.
So what are some of those things that we can do? Like when we think about the foods that we feed our kids or the lifestyles that we create for them, what can we do?
Yeah, so many things. So I think diet is a really good place to start. So many kids are just, not eating enough of the good stuff and eating way too much of, the unfavorable ingredients that are found so commonly in our foods today. So I think the first thing to look at is the balance of macronutrients in your kids' diet. So when I talk about macronutrients, I'm talking about proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. The vast majority of kids are not eating enough of the protein and the fats and eating way too many of the carbohydrates and the simple refined carbohydrates that are just basically, breaking down to sugar and leading to all kinds of issues when it comes to mood and behavior in kids. So as a first step, I think if parents can start to focus on including more protein in their kids' diet, in every single meal, at breakfast, at lunch, and at dinner, and protein-rich snacks are great as well. So protein helps to keep blood sugar levels more stable. So it reduces those fluctuations, those ups and downs of energy, of mood, and things like inattention and behavior are all linked to that as well. So when we're talking about protein foods, we're talking about things like eggs and meat and fish, nuts and seeds. Plant-based proteins are things like nuts and seeds and legumes as well. So we want to be including more protein in our kids' diets, particularly towards the start of the day. I think a lot of kids will eat, meat maybe at dinner time, but for breakfast and lunch, they're really lacking in protein, which is when they're at school, a lot of kids, and they're needing to sort of pay attention and sit still, and that's why so many of them are struggling. So macronutrient balance is really important. The other big piece when it comes to brain health and mood and behavior and attention in kids are the additives. So, so many of the foods that our kids are eating are laden with a lot of additives, preservatives, colorings, artificial sweeteners. And so starting to learn more about additives and how to reduce additives in your kids' diet can be key. And this can be really life-changing when we're talking about, kids that have been diagnosed with ADHD and sensory issues, neurological issues as well. So yeah, the macronutrient balance and the additives are two really key areas to look at. And then when we're talking about lifestyle, our kids on average these days are spending half the amount of time outside than we did as kids. So, that's a pretty scary statistic. I think we all can probably resonate with the fact that we were outside as kids much more than our kids are now for a lot of people. And so, getting our kids to play outdoors more, to spend more time outside can have a really big impact on their mood and behavior as well.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with getting outside. It's one of my key parenting strategies is just like get out the door. I don't care what the weather's like, we're going outside. It's amazing what that does to mood, and hyperactivity just drops when you're out there. It's so much more manageable, and it really does calm everybody down.
Us as well, right? Us parents. I know for me,
Hugely.
I need my nature fix every day. And yeah, I know it's getting more and more challenging to get kids outside. They have so much to entertain them indoors. The screens, which is another big factor when it comes to, attention, mood, and behavior. So even if we can just start small, if you're resonating with the fact that your kids are spending too much time indoors, how can you get them out for an extra half an hour a day? Maybe you could go for a family walk after dinner. I mean, it's coming into the summer months here in Australia, so that's easier to do now. I know where you are in Canada, maybe it's, quite cold and dark, but just thinking about small ways that you can get outdoors as a family more often. And yeah, just keeping in mind that being outside is so good for our kids in so many ways. Yes, for their mood and behavior, but also for their gut health, their microbiome development, their immune development as well. It's thought to be one of the reasons that our kids are struggling with more allergies and atopic conditions like eczema is because of the lack of exposure to different microbes that they're getting in early life, because they're in kind of, sterile, hygienic indoor environment. So yeah, I know we're focusing on mood and behavior today, but being outside has so many other, huge benefits for our kids and ourselves as well.
And our gut health and our kids' gut health impacts how well our brains work and our mood and behavior, right?
Yes, yes. And this is a huge part, when I'm working with people that kids that have mood, behavior, sleep issues, we're always looking at the gut. So there is that really interesting connection, the gut brain connection. It's there's more and more research being done on this. It's being talked about more and more. But for those who might not know about this, it's the fact that the gut and the brain actually communicate with each other. They talk to each other. And it's mainly the gut talking to the brain. And so that is impacting the neurotransmitters that our kids are producing, those brain chemicals that affect their mood, their sleep, their behavior. So the majority of neurotransmitters like serotonin, like GABA, like dopamine, like melatonin that are have such an impact on our kids' mood and behavior are actually produced within the gut. So if the gut is unhealthy, again, which it is so often in kids, then they are not going to have, healthy brain, and that is going to be impacting mood, sleep, and behavior as well.
How can we tell if our kids have gut issues? Like, is it only, well, it isn't just if they have digestive issues, right? It can also come across, like you're saying, in their behavior. So
Yes.
what are the other factors that we can notice that indicate, yeah, our kids probably could use a bit of support in that area?
Yeah, I love this question because it's not always obvious. A lot of kids do suffer with digestive issues. They might feel sick after eating something, or they might get tummy aches, or they might have constipation, or they might have clear sort of food intolerances where when they eat certain foods, they get digestive symptoms. But as you're saying, it's not always sort of straightforward. So as a naturopath, when we're looking at kids that have any sort of mood issue like anxiety, low mood, kids with ADHD, kids on the spectrum, we're always looking at gut. The other signs and symptoms that can be sort of a bit more hidden or less obvious are any sort of skin symptoms. So eczema or, rashes or really sensitive kind of skin, molluscum, which is a really common infection of the skin where you get these kind of little wart-like growths. Any skin stuff is always linked back to the gut as well. And the other key area is the immune system. So if your kids are getting sick really regularly, or they're taking a long time to recover from illness, or if they're getting those recurrent infections, the croup, the ear infections, the tonsillitis, then they're all signs that the gut is out of whack or could do with some extra attention.
And what can we do? Because you just described probably 95% of kids. What can we do as parents to help our kids?
Yeah, well, in terms of gut health, there's so much we can do. And, again, it's the modern world that is depleting our children's gut health. What we really want in terms of the gut and the microbiome is diversity. So we want lots of different strains of healthy bacteria within the gut. And that leads to better digestive health and better gut health in general. So to get that diversity within the gut, again, kids spending time outside is really great for that because they're getting exposed to different microbes in an outdoor environment just by being outside. They don't have to be, muddy and dirty, although that's great too. But just the very nature of being outside is a really great and easy way to support our kids' gut health. And then eating variety in the diet. And I know this is tricky, particularly when kids are fussy, but more variety in the diet equals better diversity within the microbiome. So as a parent, you want to really try and get out of the habit of buying those same fruits and vegetables every single week, and try and really diversify the types of plant foods that your family is eating. So different types of onions and different varieties of apples. Eating seasonally is really important, but getting the kids involved and picking some fruit that you might not normally buy, or some vegetables that you might not normally buy, you haven't tried for a while, is a really good way to improve that microbiome diversity. And then, of course, we've got things like probiotics and prebiotics. So fermented foods in the diet can be fantastic. And that can be a little bit of a trial and error to find fermented foods and drinks that your kids might enjoy. But don't give up, keep trying. Little bits go a long way. Probiotic supplements can be beneficial for a lot of kids. And then prebiotic fibers in the diet are really important as well. So they feed the good bacteria, which is really important. So things like oats and rye and garlic and onion, legumes like lentils and chickpeas and black beans are all really great prebiotic fiber foods that our kids, should be eating more of.
Yeah, that all sounds like really good things and really useful things that we could all do, not only for our kids, but for ourselves too. I think we could all increase the diversity of the vegetables that we're eating, the produce that we're eating, and get outside more.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier about additives affecting behavior. What additives would you recommend people start getting rid of first, or would you just suggest we cut out all of them at once? What do you
Yeah.
recommend?
Good question. There are definitely certain additives that are more problematic when it comes to, kids' mood and behavior. Certainly the artificial colors are big ones. And so, anything that's artificially brightly colored is generally better to avoid. Look, and different kids react differently to different additives as well. So it can be a bit tricky to work out. I think as a general rule, we just want to start reducing the amount of additives, in our kids' diet. And if we reduce the amount of packaged processed food and move towards more whole food, home cooked meals, home baking, then that is going to drastically reduce the amount of additives in our kids' diet. But yeah, those artificial colors are big ones. And they, I think we've all probably experience that, at kids' birthday parties or after a piece of birthday cake, that does contain additives or, sweets, lollies and things. We can see that drastic change in our kids' behavior. Also the sweeteners, the artificial sweeteners. So a lot of food will say sort of sugar-free or no sugar, and we think, oh, that must be healthy. But if we turn the packet around, more often than not, they're adding artificial sweeteners. So no sugar, but they're adding artificial sweeteners in there. So they're ones that we want to avoid as well. Another big one is the nitrates. So they are generally used in small goods, in like processed meats like bacon and ham and that sort of thing. So look for nitrate-free ham and bacon if you are going to be including that in your diet. I'm not sure if this is sort of relevant in the US or Canada, but here in Australia, there's a great app called the Chemical Maze. And that sort of gives, you can look up additives and really easily see whether they're kind of okay or that you definitely want to avoid them. So I'm not sure if there's something equivalent. I'm sure there is in the US and Canada. But apps like that can be really helpful because, like you said, not all additives are terrible. But we do want to sort of just generally start to reduce the amount of additives in our family's diet.
Yeah, I have that app. I'm not sure if you can access it here in Canada, like if you can download it here, because I got it in Australia, but I still use it all the time. I find it so helpful and
It's
it's
so
so
good, isn't
simple.
it?
Yeah, it's so
Yes.
good. And I've noticed that natural flavors are just in everything. Even in teas, I'm finding it hard to buy teas that don't have flavors in them. It almost seems like everything that comes in any sort of box or package has flavoring. So it's tricky. You really do have to start cooking more from scratch, and
Yes, you
it
do.
makes
And
it
I know
tough.
that, yeah, that feels kind of heavy for a lot of people. It's like, oh, another thing that I have to do, cooking everything from scratch. But I think, learning more about whole food cooking and simple whole food cooking is one of the best things that we can do as parents, because you're right, more and more and more products are, now they're calling them natural flavors, which we never know exactly what is making up a natural flavor. So, they are probably a step better than the artificial flavors, but they can still be problematic as well. So really the only way around it is either purchasing food products that are very simple ingredients, only a few ingredients on the list. As soon as you're sort of looking and you're like, that sounds like a chemical, there's lots of numbers in here, those are the foods that are sort of best to avoid. But yeah, those natural flavors are popping up. I've noticed them in more and more like herbal teas and things, which you'd think would be fairly safe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So based on
Mm.
what we've talked about here, what is one simple shift that parents can make to help with their kids if they're struggling with inattention, sleep issues, or hyperactivity? Where do they start? Because we've covered so many different things. Is there one that you notice is the best place to start, or is it just wherever parents are at?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because I know I've like all this information. So I think it's good to really, go back. I would recommend starting with that macronutrient balance. I think is a really good place to start. Because that, getting that balance right in your kids' meals really does make such a difference to their overall well-being. And by doing that, you're naturally going to be including more nutrients, more of the micronutrients, the vitamins and the minerals and the antioxidants that are found in natural foods as well. So yeah, that and the outdoor play, I think, are the two things that I would recommend, starting with.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been starting to eat more protein earlier in the day, so for breakfast or at least for lunch, and I notice it myself, so I can imagine it has a huge impact on kids too.
Yeah, and I'm exactly the same. If I don't have protein in the morning, I notice a big difference in that, those energy slumps in the afternoon. Yeah, and just general energy throughout the day. So yeah, getting more protein into kids at breakfast is actually a really great like one place to start. And it can be tricky when your kids might be used to, having cereal or toast for breakfast. So to get started on that, like maybe even just adding something protein rich to what they're already having. So for example, if they're having, some toast for breakfast, could they have a couple of boiled eggs with their toast? Or could they have a protein-rich smoothie with something that they're already eating? Eggs are an obvious one in the morning. My son will eat, so I've got a 16-year-old son who will eat eggs in the morning, but my 13-year-old daughter will not. She doesn't like eggs in the morning. So that does make it tricky. She will generally have a smoothie, and I'll just pop some, collagen protein powder in. She likes it pretty simple, just a banana, some sort of milk. So it doesn't have to be complicated. Smoothies and eggs are a really great place to start in terms of increasing that protein in the morning.
Yeah, that seems doable for sure.
Mm.
What resources would you recommend listeners access if they want to learn more about supporting their kids to have optimal health and to improve their attention and learning and brain health? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so I can definitely link you. I've got a really handy little book, and talking about breakfast, I've got a free little ebook which is 3 breakfast recipes to improve your kids' mood and behavior. So I'm happy to send you the link for that, for some, some breakfast idea recipes. Like I said, that's a really good place to start. Definitely start looking at, additives and start to reduce those. There's some great resources online. We've got a wealth of resources over on the Natural Super Kids. We've got a podcast as well. So I do a weekly podcast episode where I talk a lot about these things, talk a lot about kids' gut health. And, we've done episodes on reducing additives and things like that as well. And we've also got a lot of blogs over on our Natural Super Kids website that people can sort of have a look at as well.
And I was wondering about like specific nutrients or natural remedies. Do you recommend anything specific for parents to help their kids or like to do blood work to see if they're low in certain nutrients, if they are struggling with inattention or those behavioral issues? Is there where
Yeah.
do we start with that?
Definitely. So I think the number one nutrient to think about is your omega-3s. So a lot of kids are just not getting enough omega-3s. Omega-3s are really important in healthy brain development, healthy brain function. They also help to reduce inflammation. So an omega-3, a good quality omega-3 supplement containing the omega-3, there's EPA and DHA, focusing on that higher level of DHA, which is specific for brain health, can be really great for kids with these issues, and can make a big difference. The other nutrients I always think about are magnesium. Magnesium has that beautiful calming effect. Most kids are not getting enough magnesium in their diet, and a lot of soils are depleted of magnesium as well. So it can be really tricky to get enough of it without supplementation. So a good quality magnesium supplement can be beneficial, especially for those, those hyperactive kids that don't sleep well. And zinc is also really important. Zinc's probably my most favorite nutrient for kids because it's so great for immunity. It's so great for gut health. It's so important in neurological health and for skin health as well. So a zinc supplement is something to think about, but you definitely do want to get practitioner support with zinc because you can sort of go overboard with zinc. You do have to be careful about the dose, but small doses of zinc given regularly, is fairly safe. So yeah, they're the three that I would recommend in terms of supplements. Probiotics can be great to look after that microbiome as well. And iron is another one. So if your kids are fussy with meat and don't eat a lot of animal products, or you're vegetarian or vegan, you definitely want to think about iron and whether there may be a deficiency in iron. Before taking iron supplements, though, I would recommend getting a blood test to see where your child's level is at. And that's really only warranted if they've got signs and symptoms of iron deficiency, or they're not eating animal products for whatever reason.
Yeah, those all seem like really good nutrients that we all need. With zinc, I notice it seems really challenging to get that level up. Do you recommend anything to help support kids to increase that, I guess, the level that they actually hold on to?
Mm. Yeah, well, it may be a dosage kind of, you may just need to increase the dose. But again, I would always make sure you're working with a practitioner on that. But then it is also absorbability, in the gut. So making sure that, the digestive processes are all working efficiently and effectively, and supporting gut health with things like prebiotics and probiotics is important for that zinc absorption as well.
Yeah, I guess that goes for all nutrients, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
We are what we
Iron's
absorb.
iron's another big one that, sometimes like kids will be taking the supplements and like the level just will not be going up. And that's generally because there's lack of absorption happening in the gut. So if your child does have, digestive symptoms such as constipation or regular tummy aches, really important to get on top of those before kind of filling them with nutrient supplements, because otherwise they're just probably not going to absorb much of it anyway.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So before I let you go, I just have a few quick questions that I'm asking guests at the end. One of
Okay.
them is, how do you support your kids' emotional development? And I know you have teenagers, so you can answer how you did this when they were little or how you're doing it now because they're teens.
Yeah, I think this is what I'm finding tricky about the teen years. So for me, on a good day, I've had some not so good parenting moments lately, just because teens can just be so selfish, really. If I'm honest, it's really hard to kind of, be your best as a parent sometimes with teens. But for me, it's just really, listening, just being open to, not always jumping to like advice or, yeah, giving them direction. It's just sort of being there and listening and kind of making that effort of just kind of zipping up and just listening to what they have to say. I feel like with teenagers as well, they need a lot of time and space to open up. So yeah, it's just really at the moment, it's just being available for them, and trying to be, as present as possible when we're together. That is, yeah, I guess one way that I'm trying to support their emotional health and development.
That seems like a great one. If we're not listening and we're not being there and trying to be present, we can't do any of the other things. If they're fancy techniques, they're useless if we're not doing the foundations like you are.
Yeah, so true. And just that pause, like, um, before reacting. I'm really working on that at the moment. Which is again, it's tricky sometimes, but it's amazing what kind of comes out from my teenagers particularly. Obviously I'm talking from personal experience, when you do just like pause and give them that bit of space to, because it doesn't always, come out straight away. You can kind of sense sometimes that they need to talk to you, but yeah, like it doesn't happen really quickly. So I think, yeah, that space and just being there to listen is important.
Yeah, brilliant. What do you do to help your kids if they're fussy with their eating? And this may be something, again, that it was more of an issue when they were younger, or it may not have been in your family, but what do you recommend people do if there's one thing that we could do to help support our kids if they're
Yeah, we talk
struggling?
about fussy eating a lot at Natural Super Kids, because it's a huge challenge when it comes to kids of all ages. And honestly, like, I think teenagers become fussy in different ways than toddlers might or younger children might. For me, it's always just been about, those family meals, and not catering to everyone because they don't like this, so they're eating this, and oh, they won't eat that. So I'm going to make up a different meal for them. It's like one meal for the family. You can eat what you want of it. Like, I'm not forcing you to eat it. Obviously, I make an effort to make sure there's things that are being served that everyone likes. Like, for example, my daughter's not a very big fan of most fish. So if we're having fish, which we do like to eat regularly, then I give her the option of like, well, you do need some protein. I know you don't like fish, so would you like me to cook you up a couple of eggs, for example? So giving a little bit of variation to make sure that their nutrient needs are being met. But on the whole, it's like, this is what we're having for dinner, and you get to choose what of it you want, what of it you don't want, but this is it.
Yeah, I love that. It's simple. It makes life a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I know the amount of mums that I talk to that it's like, well, I cook 3 different meals for my 3 different kids every night, because it's like, you're like, it's things are never going to improve if you're just serving them their favorite food every night, right?
And you get pretty burnt out in the process.
Exactly. I don't have time for that. No way.
No. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. Is there anything that you wanted to say that I didn't ask you about or that we didn't cover?
Not really. I think we covered a lot. I just want to reassure parents that this can feel overwhelming to make sort of healthier changes. And there is probably a lot that I talked about, and a lot of that might be new to some of your listeners. So I guess to finish, I'd just like to encourage people just to take, one step, just do one thing. And every little healthy habit that you make a change with builds on the next one. So don't feel like you have to do it all at once. Just focus on, one thing that we've talked about that has resonated with you, and, start there.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. So where can we find you and where can we find out more about the work that you do?
Yeah, thank you. So over on my website, naturalsuperkids.com, is where it's at. I guess, like, you can find my podcast there. You can find all of our blogs there. We're pretty active on Instagram as well. So I like to share really helpful, informative, and sometimes funny information, like trying to kind of lighten it up a bit. Over on Instagram, we're Natural Super Kids. So yeah, the website and the podcast, Natural Super Kids, we release a new podcast episode every week talking about all things kids, health, and nutrition.
Yeah, it's a great podcast. I listen to it all the time. I usually don't listen for a few weeks and then I binge it and I just love it. I
Oh, thank
recommend all
you.
parents listen to it because you gain so much from it. And you also have your membership, Natural Super Kids Club. Is that
Yes,
what it's
yes.
called? Okay.
So, yeah, we have a membership, which is where we support parents to raise healthy and happy kids. We have a lot of people that join the membership that have issues with their kids' health or nutrition: fussy eaters, eczema, ADHD, like constipation. And so we really help with the resources that we have in the club. We have loads of recipes and masterclasses and cheat sheets and practitioner support, to support parents to raise healthier and happier kids. And yeah, the link to that is via our website as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on here. And I think the listeners are going to gain so much from this chat. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.